The 2023 season has been brought down to upgrades and trying to find more performance from the current challengers to set a solid foundation for 2023. And while Mercedes seem to be the most promising team in this field, it's safe to say that they've been replaced by their customer company. Mercedes themselves spoke on this matter, and the news that their fans had to hear is quite devastating. So it might be a bit longer than 2024 until Hamilton and Russell are available to fight with Verstappen for race wins. One of the most rollercoaster teams in the 2023 season is Mercedes, and the facts speak for themselves. From starting the season in a very disappointing manner to scoring podiums with their new design, and then back to being a midfield team stuck between not knowing what to do or where to move. There have been lots of ups and downs for the Silver Arrows. But if there is one thing that disappointed them and their fans the most, it's the fact that McLaren, their customer company, was able to find performance in the MCL 60 in such a tightly regulated era, to the point of them actually being better than Mercedes in the past couple of events. Now, it's safe to assume that Mercedes won't be threatened by McLaren in terms of losing the second place in the Constructors' Championship, given the fact that the Woking-based squad currently sits at 5th place and is trying to make the remainder of the season a living hell for Ferrari and Aston Martin. But they are now prepared to be understood as a greater challenge for the upcoming season. Part of that lies in the fact that they actually have an understanding of what is going on in the car, and while the team has mostly borrowed the ideas from the most successful team on the grid, their own iteration of the rules made the MCL 60 such a greater machinery, propelling it from P17 to podium finishes in the matter of a couple of races. This is something that, according to Andrew Chauvelin, the trackside engineer of Mercedes, is going to be a massive stretch for them in the upcoming period. And following the arrival of a significant upgrade package in Silverstone and Budapest, it became evident that Mercedes are still following something that they have no idea what will bring to their factory. The only thing that they have understood as of now is the fact that they've been way too careful in terms of trading performance for porpoising, and that's what cost the car a lot of performance. So right now they might not even be able to keep the second place in the Constructors' Championship, just because of the fact that they've reportedly switched their focus to 2024, while their main rivals, Aston Martin, Ferrari and McLaren, will keep upgrading their challengers in the upcoming campaign. Andrew Chauvelin didn't sound very happy when translating the progress that McLaren made and whether or not that was possible for Mercedes to do, as he went on to say, "I think the step McLaren made was pretty impressive. You can see that they've changed a fair bit on their car. For us, we do need to close that gap to Red Bull. We're still developing the car. Whether or not we could find the half a second that McLaren looked to have found, I don't know. That'd be a stretch target." Chauvelin has pointed to a specific area of the car that needed to be changed more than the rest of it. As he continued to elaborate, "The front end of the car is a bit more coherent, a bit stronger now, so we're having to work to balance that. But it does look to have gone in the right direction, and our correlation over the last year has been strong in that we make bits and we race them. We're not putting kits on and off trying to decide whether we've done the right thing." It's difficult to gauge the process when you just look at how the teams stack up, but the fact is you can see those moves where people do bring updates. We just need to work to try and improve the development rate, but the focus for us is making sure we can challenge Red Bull or whoever it is at the front next year. Now, there have been a lot of debate as to whether or not the teams that are following Red Bull should switch their focus to 2024 or just continue to upgrade the car in 2023 and find a solid basis on which they're going to build the Challenger for the upcoming season. And right now, it does seem like the latter is the option that many teams are actually choosing. For example, Aston Martin will bring a brand new front wing to Singapore, a high downforce track that would bring the AMR 23 back to the favourites to win a race this season, which, considering the fact that Red Bull would be already long given up on the 2023 campaign, is not that far-fetched of a season. McLaren has opted for the same way, as Zak Brown has warned its rivals that the MCL60 will receive upgrades in the remainder of the season, and it will be one of the front-fighting teams not just in 2023 but in the 2024 season as well. All in all, Mercedes seems to be the only team that struggles to understand which path to follow, and the fact they've changed basically the entire concept of the car and it's still not enabled Russell and Hamilton to go that extra mile and extract more potential of the car speaks volumes about where the car is currently situated. Many of the critics said that the W14 and its B-spec version is down to Russell and Hamilton not being aligned in terms of what they actually want from the car and them not being able to extract the maximum data from the Challenger. But according to David Croft from Sky F1, the influence that Hamilton and Russell had on where their car should be moving to is quite high, and that is what brought the team to where they are today. When talking about this, Croft went on to say, "I worry with Mercedes who's wagging these engineering changes. Is the engineering team saying we need to be changing our concept, or is it pressure from those in the cockpit, from Lewis and from George? Lewis is a vastly experienced racing driver and George has got plenty of experience himself, but you want the engineering team to be driving it because they understand engineering and design and aerodynamics way more than the drivers ever will. But I just worry that the changing concept, did it come from the cockpit or did it come from back at base?" These comments are made during quite a specific time for Mercedes, because if you remember, Hamilton was the fiercest critic when it comes to the car's design after the first race in Bahrain, where Mercedes definitely decided that the no-pod side-pod design is not going to give them more performance, and they need to change the entire philosophy of the car. The seven-time world champion has even gone to the extent of asking the engineers back in Brackley to take responsibility as to why the car hasn't delivered the results that he and Russell feel should have been present in the current season. And to top that off, Mercedes is now facing departures left and right from critical engineers and pivotal people in the team, which only deepens the hole that is now present there. Crofty commented on what would be the future for Mercedes if they're not able to replicate or recreate the intelligence that people like Vowles and Loic Serra have brought to Mercedes. As the Sky F1 pundit continued, "They're losing staff. Loic Serra is off to Ferrari and they'll miss him, and there have been others that have gone as well. We often see that dynasties dissipate after a while, and that group of men and women that came together to create such an amazing dynasty at Mercedes have ticked past midnight, and we are starting to wane just a little bit now." One thing is for sure, the future for Mercedes doesn't seem crystal bright after all of the changes being applied in the team, and it will be a hard one to explain to the main factory in Germany as to why the team changed everything on the car and they still can't find the performance they're missing. From a very strong rear-ended to a front-ended monster, Mercedes have been going back and forth with the design of their car, and with Hamilton yet to put pen to paper on the contract with Mercedes, something that we feel took an eternity, changes are bound to happen in one of the most successful teams in the sport. The question is, what kind of impact will it leave on those remaining in the Brackley-based squad? As of now, it doesn't seem like they're too happy with the changes happening, and the fact they can't catch McLaren's fast pace goes to show that the team might not be looking at the brightest period ahead of them. One reason more for Hamilton to look outside of his future from Mercedes.